just going for it. Like part of the problem is like, at least for me, I'm a researcher. I love to read. I love to listen to things. I love to watch before I try to dive into stuff. But at some point, you're gonna just have to learn through action, right? So you get in there, you take the action. You might flop a bit, but then from there, you're like, okay, well, that didn't really work out. What can I do in the next video? It was a lot of like, YouTube in itself is a resource, right? So there was a lot of trying to figure out, just like things I should be focused on when I first start, trying to have a good story to tell. And I think it's important to just be like, you're not gonna be perfect, from the get-go. No one, is perfect, of course, but you can improve. And maybe a good goal is to improve by 1% each time.
All right, guys, welcome back to a brand new episode on the channel. Michael Lewis Hudson here, and I'm really excited to have on Natasha Theresa here. We've known each other for quite some time. I would say we met, I would say probably like through sports. I would say we met like through our church and things like that. And we've done a lot of virtual workouts together, especially during COVID. Thanks for coming on, Natasha. How you doing?
Thank you so much, Michael. It's great to be here. Yeah, and it's nice. We have known each other for a bit. So I'm very honored that you invited me onto your channel today. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, just wanted to pick your brain because I still vividly remember the day you started your YouTube channel. I want to say it was probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I've been following you. I've been seeing your videos, and I've just seen like the success you've had. I mean, you're sitting at like probably about 2,800 subscribers right now, and you're in a pretty cool niche. And I really think that you're going to grow even more just because, your videos are pretty cool to watch, and you're a pretty funny person. So I think that's always a good recipe for success. So I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit today. Not only for myself, but the people that are watching, and just wanted to see your journey and just how you got into where you are. So yeah, I would love to just hear like how you got into YouTube, what made you decide to get into YouTube, and also choose this niche that you're doing right now.
Thanks so much, Mike, for your kind words. Just so you know, I'm sitting around 2,400. So, but I aspire. I'm gonna get back on the train to get a bit higher. But thank you so much. Well, in terms of starting out, Mike, you were a big supporter, especially when I first was trying to find resources. So I really thank you for everything that you shared with me. It was a lot of like, YouTube in itself is a resource, right? So there was a lot of trying to figure out, just like things I should be focused on when I first start, trying to have a good story to tell, also not taking too long to get to the point, things like that. So it is a lot of like hit or miss, and it still is to this point. But I think it's important to reach out to others who are also on the YouTube journey as well, because I feel like there's like so many resources that they already have that they can share with you, and I really appreciate that. And then just going for it. Like part of the problem is like, at least for me, I'm a researcher. I love to read. I love to listen to things. I love to watch before I try to dive into stuff. But at some point, you're gonna just have to learn through action, right? So you get in there, you take the action. You might flop a bit, but then from there, you're like, okay, well, that didn't really work out. What can I do in the next video? And I think it's important to just be like, you're not gonna be perfect, from the get-go. No one, is perfect, of course, but you can improve. And maybe a good goal is to improve by 1% each time. So maybe in your first video, it's like, but then, 1% better the next time. Maybe you gotta work on your punchlines, or you gotta cut it down more, like cut out more of the boring stuff. I think it's important to realize that, people have a short attention span. And so like when I first started, I thought, everything was important, which is funny because that's the opposite of minimalism. Like, I guess with minimalism, it's kind of like you only keep in your life the important things, the things that are most important to you, and the other stuff that's just like fluff, you just don't worry about it. that's kind of the same thing I feel like with videos. Like, you don't want to be that long-winded, especially if you're in the minimalism niche, right?
That makes perfect sense. So speaking of minimalism, like, how did you come across that specific niche? Was it just like an interest of yours for a while, or how did you come across that?
So like before I started my channel, I was into minimalism probably for like two years by that point. And it honestly came out of necessity in my life because I felt like I was being pulled in too many directions. My house was a mess. You know, I had 2 kids. I was just into my first year of having 2 kids. And I'm like, oh, this isn't working. And part of like being a mom, you want to just make sure that you're doing the best you can. But at that time, I felt like I was failing. Like I couldn't juggle everything. And so I was like, something's not right. There's gotta be something out there to help me out. And so it happened that I found Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Mm-hmm. And it changed my life. Like I read that, I was like, I should only be focused on the things that spark joy. And it sounds all like, you know, I don't know, whatever. But at the end of the day, it really helped me to realize that there were a lot of things in my life that just weren't sparking joy, that weren't necessary. And so even just the amount of clothes I had for these 2 kids, they like barely stay in an outfit for like a few hours or whatever. And I'm over here like so worried about having all these coordinating outfits. So the first thing we did was declutter their clothing and also me and my husband's clothing. And for some reason, our laundry loads somehow diminished, and also our closet, suddenly we could like get in our closet. And so in the morning I open my closet and I'm like, wow, I can see everything at a glance. I'm not trying to dig in there, and it's just nice and neat. And that was the new start to our day. And so once I realized, you know, once I started with the clothing, I realized like, oh, now I'm starting my day and I feel better. I feel better, like just, you know, being able to like start without like having any visual clutter in front of me. Then that kind of like went into like snowballed into other areas of my life. And then suddenly I had more time because I wasn't spending forever trying to figure out what to wear in the morning. I wasn't spending forever with laundry, and it just like snowballed. And then I was like having time for more of the things I wanted to do, like read books and read books. So that was a big thing. Exercise, like cook healthier. So then I got into like better food choices, better meal prep, and I got more into exercising again. And it was like I was getting my time back, and it was by having less stuff. And then later on, like 2 years into my journey, is the beginning of pandemic, and I was like, I have even more time. Now I'm unemployed. So I was like, I'm gonna spend some time to get into YouTube, because other people had also said, you should get into YouTube, you should try this, or you should try that. And I'm like, no, I don't have time. But now I did have time. So I was like, oh, why not? Maybe I can share my journey, and maybe it can be inspiring to other people. So that's kind of how that all happened.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. That's cool that like you are able to do like what you love to do, which is like minimalism and just having organization but at the same time like share it with the masses, which is like the dream, right? So
it's cool. Been great. Like it's a lot of fun. Like it's still mind-boggling to me that people like to see that stuff, but I guess it's because it's inspiring. So like I'll be like, okay, here's my mess of my room right now, let's declutter, and then people will watch it, and then it gives them inspiration to also do the same, which it's pretty cool. Like
totally. You know, I feel like the minimalism movement is just growing. People are wanting to get more and more, I guess, decluttered and wanting to be more organized in life. So say, for example, I'm brand new to the world. I want to get into it. What would be like the first step that I could take to basically get to that point of adding that to my life?
What helped me was just doing a little at a time. So maybe, you know, if there's a certain part of your home, for instance, like if you look around your home and there's a certain part of your home that gives you a headache, like you always feel like you're fumbling, say maybe your desk. Yeah. Maybe you're like, okay, you know, I want this to be a place where I can just sit down and start working without distraction. What can I do to make my desk like, you know, work friendly, like right away without me having a headache about it. So you could start there. And maybe that'll only take you like, 30 minutes to just, move things around and be like, hey, I really don't need all these books on my desk. Maybe I can have a better place for them. And like ultimately at the end of the day, you just want that everything in your space has a home. If everything can have a home, then it will always return to that spot, at some point, or it's easy to put it back in that spot. And then you can just easily reset that certain space each day. So I would just start small. I would start in a place that like is pretty obvious to you. Other people might be like, okay, well, when I first enter my home, what is something that I see right away? Like maybe when you enter your home, you see your living room, and you don't want to enter your home, see your living room, and it's like a hot mess, like after you had a long day at work, right? You're like, okay, this isn't gonna work. Like this doesn't bring me joy and I'm not happy. I just came home from work. When you come home, it's not a storage area. It's supposed to be a place of respite. So like you could start like by, moving some things around there or taking out the excess there. So like, I would say just look around, see what you can do, like what would give you instant gratification, I guess, and not be like trying to take on too much, start small. And then over time you could tackle your bigger projects, but at the same time, do a little at a time. Like don't overwhelm yourself, like just have little goals. Maybe if you do like speed decluttering, like 10 minutes, like set a timer, see what you can do in just 10 minutes, even just 10 minutes a day out throughout the house, whatever, like you just visually see like, oh, this isn't good, or, this isn't good. Let me put but 10 minutes makes a difference and you feel better. It's that dopamine, right? And then it encourages you to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Those are great tips. And I think, for me, like decluttering, I always have a sense of like gratification almost. Like, when you like make a list and you like check off each box, that feeling you get, you're just like, oh man, I feel like pretty accomplished. I think in addition to that, it just keeps like your mind like at ease too, right? And
yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, when I do that and, the wife notices, so, extra brownie points when, when I do that. But those are really good tips. But going back to YouTube, I mean, so you're doing the minimalism niche and you release your videos. Can you talk a little bit about like your routine as far as like, okay, from the moment you come up with the idea to filming it to posting it? Can you kind of talk about like your process as far as YouTube goes?
Sure. I will talk about my process. That's no problem at all. So, I try to, honestly, I try to set aside like quiet time. And a lot of it is when I'm driving, because I do drive a lot, especially like in my everyday life, like property searching, because I'm into real estate, property searching, or just driving to and fro, running errands, things like that. So I try not to listen to anything in the car. And that's it ends up being a nice quiet time for me to think of stuff, usually jokes or punchlines. but I'll think of ideas, and then when I get home, I'll try to just jot down an outline and I already try to come up with like an opener, like, okay, what's a hook? Like what's something that will hook my audience's attention? And usually it's just some kind of like silly joke or just like a random. I love doing skits. I love doing skits, and I realized that it comes from when I was younger. When I was a kid, like me and my friends would always get the video camera and just do random skits. So when I can, I try to incorporate those short skits into the beginning of my videos. Doesn't always happen, but I try. And then I'll just kind of have an outline of like the main points that I want to talk about, and then it kind of like when it comes to the actual filming, I kind of riff. It really depends. It kind of depends on what the video is about. If it's more like informational and like, I'm giving you different bullet points, then I'll have the main point and then I'll explain a bit more. And that kind of seems to be working for me. The editing part is where I honestly get a little backed up. I got like 4 videos right now that I'm going to work on right after we film this. I'm going to start working on those. There's a backlog, but thank you to my viewers who are very patient. They've been very patient with me regarding this. But Yeah, I feel like I'm getting a lot better at cutting out the fat. I was not good at it at first, but I think it's just, each time you edit, you get a bit faster, get your processes down. I think it's important to have organization with everything. Like, so I'll have a folder for A roll, I'll have a folder for B roll, and then I'll do even my sound clips or my special sound effects. I'll have it all in there, and voiceovers if I have any. I just try to have everything in bins so it's easy for me to pull and drop it into my editing software. Oh yeah, and before I film, I also already try to shoot my thumbnails if possible. I don't want them to be an afterthought. I'm not saying this always happens, but ideally I don't I don't want it to be an afterthought where I'm like, oh no, let me just grab something from the actual footage. Like I try to I bother my husband, I get the lighting, and I'm like, okay, time to make all these different facial expressions and then figure out which one works best for the thumbnail. So this isn't an ideal world. I'm still in transition right now because I just quit my job like 2 weeks ago. So I'm learning how to not be, employed in the 9 to 5. So I'm splitting my time right now between real estate and YouTube. So I'm saying it's good I'm having this interview with you because now after this, I actually have to go and release more videos. So thank you.
Oh yeah, keeping each other accountable. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to acknowledge you for a quick second. I feel like watching your videos, just seeing your work ethic and just your attitude just towards life and just YouTube and real estate in general. It's just really inspiring for me because it really keeps me going, keeps me inspired to post videos and just really just keep going. And so I just want to acknowledge you there for a second. But when it comes to just creating content in general, I think there's days where we're just like, oh man, do I really have to film a video today? Or do I really have to post this or post that? So kind of two-part question. So one, it's do you ever face days like that? And two, if you do, what do you do to keep yourself motivated to stay consistent, as far as making content and stuff like that?
Oh my goodness. So this is a good question for someone who is consistent, but it's okay. I will answer because I definitely do have those days. And then, but what helps me honestly is just remembering my audience. Sometimes when I'm quiet for a while because I'm going through life things or whatever, just like my last year has just been a lot of transition in a good way. It's been challenging, but it's good transition because I know at the end of the day, I'm becoming a better person for it. And I'm doing the things that I've always dreamed of doing. At the end of the day, I do my best to connect with my audience and just think about because sometimes when I don't post for a while, there's also this tendency to kind of keep postponing, oh, do I really, there's imposter syndrome, and there's also self-doubt that kind of starts to creep in, honestly. But I do my best to take those times to reconnect with my audience. So I'll reconnect through my community page, or I'll reconnect through my stories and just see how people are doing. Also just post an update, I'm still here, don't worry, I'm coming back. And then it's just nice, it's nice to hear from everybody. Everybody's always so supportive, and they're we're here for you. When you get back, it's fine. We're waiting for you. It's nice to have that relationship, and I'm just thankful to my audience because they're so understanding. We all got our own things, on camera, off camera. We have our own things that we have to deal with. But being able to maintain that connection with my audience gives me the motivation. Okay, I need to get out here and get this next video done. I need to do the things. And also, I think because it's yeah, it's cool to be monetized on YouTube. And, ultimately, I do want this to be one of my primary sources of income. But aside from that, I feel just being able to connect with people all around the world, no matter where we are in life, just to be able to connect in regards to minimalism, that's a reward in itself. Just to have that, because I feel that's what keeps me going as well.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. There's days when I feel that same way, and it's just oh, do I have to do it? But yeah, I totally agree with you there when, you think of, your audience and thinking about helping them and making an impact. That really just keeps you going. So kind of transitioning over to, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about, how you got into real estate. You mentioned that you're a real estate investor. How did you get into that? And also how much time do you dedicate to that in a typical day?
Okay, so here's the story. I got into real estate because of minimalism, which is like it's so magical. Minimalism is so magical. But basically, so when I was decluttering my house last year, and getting towards like the bigger areas of my house, I realized I had so much space. And we had been living in my house for like 9 years and built up a substantial amount of equity. And then with the housing market last year, 2021, it started getting crazy. So like we bought our house down here and then suddenly it's like we're up here, right? And I was like, and at the same time, I was like, I love this house. I thought it would be our forever home, honestly. Like I saw me and Fred growing old, raising the children there. But for some reason, like as we got more space in the house, it was like we didn't need all that house. We didn't need all that space. And I was like, what if, just hear me out, Fred. What if, we get this house ready, we decluttered most of it, we paint it up a bit, make it all nice. What if we are able to sell it at a good price and then use the profit to like go buy a duplex somewhere and then live in one side of the duplex? Because live in one side, rent out the other side. And then now we have like little to no mortgage. Like, what if we do that? And then now that's money back in our pockets rather than us just paying for a mortgage, every month. And Fred was like, let me think about it. And then when I showed him the Zillow, he was like, all right, sounds good. So we were like, you know what? Plot twist, we are gonna we just decluttered the whole house. Let's go ahead and sell it now. So we went ahead and it took like, so I want to say it took a month to get it ready for the market. And then within the first 3 weeks, we were able to get a cash offer. And then we were able to a month after that, we were out of it. And then we lived with my mom for a bit, the four of us. So it's me, my hubby, and our 2 kids. We lived with my mom for a bit. And she also had a large house that she didn't need. And so I started looking for a duplex, which I am in right now. And this one came on the market somewhere around, I guess, October of last year. We were like, I think this is it. So basically, my family of 4 plus my mom, we decided to move into one side of duplex. So my mom rented out her house. So because she had equity too and all this stuff. So she rented out her house. I take care of all of the rental for that. And so she's able to get her money back every month and a profit. And then also, then we are renting out the other side of this duplex. So that basically pays most of our mortgage. So our mortgage payment is like $100 a month right now, as opposed to before it was like $1,800 a month. So yeah, so now we have now it's like we are able to have this living arrangement for now. So we all moved into this one side, but we're all like, we're happy. Like, this is what we want to do for now. We're here for another 5 months, and then God willing, we'll be able to do the same thing, buy another duplex in the area and then rinse and repeat and then rent out this side. So that's the ultimate plan. Want to do this it's basically called house hacking. Brandon Turner coined the phrase, but I understand. I wish I knew about this, when I first bought before I bought my first house, right? But not living expenses are the biggest part of most people's budget. So for us to be able to cut most of that out and have income producing properties, we're like, okay, my mom's like, okay, that's fine with me. So that we're going to do it again a few times, God willing. And then in the meantime, now we also have, since we're not paying our mortgage, we also have money to go look into other properties. So right now I'm looking into properties. I'm under contract for a property in Philly. And if everything goes well, we'll get that in a few days. And then we'll be able to rehab that, rent it out also, refinance and get our capital back, and then go rinse and repeat. So we're doing house hacking and burring on the side as well. So that's what's happening. That's why I haven't been on my channel as much. But I'm hoping once we really purchase this property, that's also another story I can tell. But I feel like I'm going to start a new channel for that. I'll do real estate on one channel and minimalism on the other channel, just to keep the audience is okay, not just yo-yoing around. But yeah, that's how we got into the real estate thing, and I'm very happy. It's been crazy. I feel like we're doing our best to set our family up for generational wealth for the future.
Man, that's awesome. That's cool. I mean, yeah, what I love about real estate, it's almost like art, it's like everybody's journey is different, how they get into it. So I think that's pretty cool. So I had a quick question about, so you mentioned that you thought was your forever home. So you got the equity out of that to purchase the duplex, and you lived on one side, rented the other. So with that equity, there's always a lot of ways of tapping into equity. You have HELOCs, you have the cash out, you can sell, you can do a 1031 exchange. So did you just sell the property and just kind of sit on it and then purchase that duplex, or did you do like a 1031 or?
We just sold it and then got the duplex. Like I wasn't that, like I understand the 1031s. Like would I have done it differently? Not necessarily for that case. Like another option I could have done was to like rent out that property, right? And then, also tap into the equity, but I did not. But for my future properties, I will be doing that. I think the way that we did it was just the best way, because we also did have like a couple of other expenses at the time that we needed to take care of, like to help other family members out. So I feel like it was important for us to be able to just, sell and then start fresh in our real estate journey for that.
Gotcha. So like when, I don't want this to be like a super invasive question, but like, with like the profits that you got, right? Was I taxed? Yeah, capital gains tax. A lot of
not at all
about that. Were you
yeah,
like, was that
you gotta live, and we made sure from the get-go regarding, but you gotta live in your primary residence for like 2 of the last 5 years, I think.
Right.
We lived there for 9 years, so it was no thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So man, you are YouTuber, real estate investor, mom, wife. You're super active in your church. I mean, how are you able to just juggle all those things and just pour all your energy into it?
Minimalism. Right? I think just part of it is like just understanding really what is important to you in your life, what really brings you joy, and then finding ways to sculpt your life around it. And sometimes I feel like we get stuck in this almost like a trap where we think we don't realize everything's not as important as we think it is. So like I honestly am all about manifestation, and I'm like, okay, what do you envision your ideal life to be? So if I envision that my ideal life is me getting to do all the things that I love, which is like, the real estate, YouTube, of course, church above all, and just being like present for my family, then I'm like, what steps can I take in my life to get to that point? And what doesn't really matter? Like at the end of the day, what doesn't really matter? Oh, and when I did that, I also was able to cut down on a lot of expenses. A lot of my expenses in my previous life were from impulse shopping, because I was always stressed out. Everybody knows about that, right? I was always stressed out because I felt like I didn't have enough time for anything. So like, it was just like this whole like web, right? But once I peeled away, like I had to do the work. You gotta do the inner work, and you gotta be like, look, I got a spending problem. Why, what is triggering me, right? It was just stress, feeling overwhelmed. So once I peeled all that back and I was like, what do I really want out of life? And I believe that anything is possible. Then I started to find ways, like my mind started to get creative. Like, what are the ways that we can sculpt our life to be really what we want it to be? And it's still a work in progress. And there were definitely sacrifices. Like anybody might just look at my life because it's different than theirs. They might look at it and be like, so you sold your big house to cram into one side of a duplex with like your whole family, and you brought your mom? Like, why would you do that to your mom? But my mom over here, like, I got money. Not like that, but at the end of the day, it's peace of mind, right? Like I'm not worrying about we still have a long way to go, but we're not like paycheck to paycheck because of my impulse spending, we're not, it's like a different way of life. And now, because we have more money to save and to invest, then it's like we actually have more time, and we have more time with our family. We're able to invest in activities for the family, like pool memberships, gym memberships, whatever we want to do, go on vacations, and things like that, where before we were putting all that stuff on a credit card. Now it's just like, okay, we can save some cash or whatever. We have more disposable income after, investing in everything. So it's a different life than we used to have. And it's not like we're escaping, we're trying to escape. We don't go on vacation to escape. It's just for an additional experience. Because to me, my everyday life is already like a great experience. Like it didn't feel like that before. Before I just felt like I needed to always get away. I needed a break. Now it's like, everything just kind of flows. Like the kids are at summer camp right now for half a day, and then we're gonna go to the pool later. So it's, and then I also, this morning, I was able to play pickleball with my husband before he went to work. And then I was able to search for other properties and apply for different kinds of loans for real estate. So it's like I have more blocks of time to do a bit of everything that I want to do each day. And then after this, I'm gonna start editing my photos. I'm gonna start editing my videos. So I'm getting back into the swing of things, but it's different than just a year ago. And I'm really so thankful for it. I think that minimalism helped me to just like really hone in on what was really important and then just be able to make my life about those things.
Gotcha, man. That's great. That's really, I'm really happy for you, and man, that's just really inspiring. Just wanted to respect your time. So I just had one more question for you. So, with you being, very close to God, being very active in your church and things like that, we're always taught that, we have our plans, but obviously, God has his plans for us. So it's kind of, I guess my question is like, how do you know that, or no, not how do you know, but it's like, how much do you plan like for yourself? And like, do you tell God like about your plans and you just trust him that he'll bless it? Or is this more like, you're just living life to its fullest and you just let God just kind of guide you through?
It's kind of, I feel like it's maybe it's a combination of both, but I mean, in all things, like I pray, me and hubby always pray, like we come up with these ideas, but at the end of the day, it's up to God. Like that's our belief. So, but we'll bring it to him and we'll be like, hey, God, this is what we're hoping for. This is our plan. If it doesn't, if it's not against your will, could you help us out with this? At the end of the day, I feel like as long as we continue to put God first in everything that we do, like as long as I'm able to do all the things that I do for church and same for my hubby and our family, then I can feel like God is always guiding us on the right path. And if it's really something that's not meant for us, then I also can see that as a sign from God, like, okay, let's pivot, let's try in a different direction. At the end of the day, I think that, the choices that we've made up to this point, I just feel like it's always been God guiding us in the right direction. And usually, like, I feel like it's even his plans, they like coincide with what we're hoping for, but they're even better than what we could hope for. And so like with real estate, I've run into a few roadblocks with getting our first property in Philly, but now when I look back, I understand that I understand God's plan. Because like our first property was, we were under contract, everything looked good. But then when it came time for the title to come back, it was so messy. And it was like, we were so bummed out at first because all the numbers worked and everything, but it was not our fault. It was the seller's fault. They had like so many liens on the property. And then we realized, I felt a little regret, but when I talked to my lawyers, I talked to 2 different lawyers about it. I was like, is there any way this deal could still go through? And they were like, we wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? We dodged a bullet with that. And now the property that we're under contract for now, it's so much better. I understand, like, so, if this is the one, God's will, then it'll go through. But that's kind of how we approach everything. If this is for us, then it'll go through. If it doesn't, then that means it's time to look for something else. And so far, so good, been alive 39 years. And, as long as I understand the signs, I feel like then we're all good. Yeah, but that's a great question. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Amen. Well, hey, Natasha, it means a lot for you to come on the channel today. I really do appreciate it, and wish you tremendous success for you and your family and all your endeavors. As we close, how can people find you on YouTube and on social media?
You can check out my YouTube at youtube.com/Natasha Theresa. TH. There's an H in there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if there's a link, but if not, just ignore this. But yeah, you can find me there. My latest video is about cockroaches, but I'm gonna get something out soon after.
There we go.
It's story time. So, but yeah, check me out. And then on Instagram, it's Natasha Theresa on Instagram, on the IG. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you follow Natasha, watch her videos, and support her on social media. We'll talk to you guys next time. Keep crushing it.